dribbling in 17. I get it. If this is what we're at, we wanted to see more, and hopefully they're just going to keep adding up. But the point is, we got a bunch of slides to go through again, but a little more discussion. We just want to get people thinking about the year. This is our last scheduled call. We may have to do one more, as some of you heard already. We may have to do one more just to discuss appropriate protocols, something that the VPA is going to want us to do. Maybe some schools will accommodate us differently. But at this point, why don't we just look at what we got set up for slides, and we'll go from there.
Hey, George, before we start, I want you to check this out. I shaved my chin and my stash.
My back.
You are looking good. You are looking good, Greg Benson.
Okay.
You all set?
Am I all set?
You are all set, George. Ready to launch.
All right, gentlemen. Good morning. Thank you. Shit, what happened?
Hold on, George. We're putting up the slide for you.
Alrighty, go ahead.
What's the matter, Jeff?
Did you put up the slide?
We just took it down. I think George wanted to talk.
Yeah, but that's George is going to kind of do a lead in with these game management slides.
Oh, gotcha. Gentlemen, all right, we've been having trouble trying to get in here this morning, so I got to shake the cobwebs off. Anyways, my big thing has always been the game management. That's what was taught to me by many of good officials. All right, the game management starts usually about the day before or when you get your schedule. You get an idea of who's playing, what type of game it is, and what to look for. 2 is that you get in contact with each other. If the referee doesn't contact you, then you contact them. It's up to you or it's up to he or whatever. Just get in touch, get to the game in time, and try not to dress in the parking lot. And that's the old Joe Menoff rule. Okay.
Minimal dressing.
It just doesn't look professional. And I've done it too in the past when I was in a hurry, but it just doesn't look professional. Get dressed, and while you're doing it, have a pre-game conference, at least the beginning of it. What you're going to call, how you're going to call, signals, directions pointing, uniform looking good, hat crisp and not rusted, but look professional. Once you get out onto the field, gentlemen, walk around. You both inspect the goals. And of course, you will ask the team when time is tight that if you can have 30 seconds or a minute, and I'm sure they'll give it to you. Okay, meanwhile, 1, check the net. 1, keep an eye on the inmates. Look for illegal equipment. You don't look as if you're looking for a gold nugget. Just glance around. You don't want to start the game off on the wrong foot. One thing to keep in mind is that the referee does all the talking to the coaches. The umpire, you need to learn to stand there and listen, because everything should have been said during pregame. While the pregame is going on with the coach, one should still be looking at the inmates. That way you can see. One of the things I've always had done in the pregame is that I have never asked the other official, is there anything else? Because that gives the appearance of the officiating team that they didn't cover everything. So I would ask that you refrain from that unless a referee asks you. Do not jump in, okay? I know there's a lot of officials there that have the need to be heard as well as need to be seen. But as the time goes on, gentlemen, you will learn that the role of the umpire is to stand back and observe players and not to interrupt the pregame while the referee is talking to the coaches. Now, I believe that there's no need for face-off stick checks, and correct me, somebody, if that is correct or incorrect.
If you're saying just to have a review with the players prior to the start of the game to say, hey,
Right.
do it off.
Do we,
I don't see why we wouldn't do that unless it's one of the things that we eliminate, per the VPA's request. Eric, did that come up at all in your meeting?
Hasn't come up at all. I would say it's optional if you want to meet with the face-off players. Is that what you're talking about?
yeah,
Okay.
No, that's out.
that's out. Okay,
That's
thank
out.
you, gentlemen. That's fine. Thank you. But maybe perhaps during the face-off or something, keep track of the number. Because you don't want to be chasing that guy for at the end of the quarter face-off stick check. Excuse me, stick check. Okay, we're not in the business to seek penalties. We just administer them as we run into them. Communication, very important. I'm hearing impaired, so it's very important that, well, it was when I was reffing, that I get the proper signal instead of asking what or how many minutes or who it is. Okay, it's very important. That is our language out there on the field. And we must communicate so that we don't delay the game. And also slow down on your signals because of the fact that there's nothing going on other than what you're supposed to do. And the off official keeps an eye on the inmates. Now, after the game, all right, before I get there, your first call should be a good call to set the pace for the game. Okay, if you're gonna have a little ticky-tack personal, you're setting yourself up for a long, hard game. If you're having a coach that is giving you a hard time, gentlemen, learn the steps and how to deal with it. I know we all want to be liked by coaches, but it's not about them. It's about the game as a whole. Okay, start out with the technical foul, or even better, start out with a verbal talk, but you do not take up time in verbalizing to the coach what your call was or why it was. Okay, and that you should rather keep the game under control for the sake of the game. You don't take over the call. I mean, you don't take over the plays or anything like that, but rather let the coach know that you need his help as well as you need his help in controlling the players. We can't control their acts. Game management also includes that most coaches want to be heard. If they're chirping, as you're running by, you're not going to stop. Give them a thumbs up as you're going by them. So let them acknowledge that you heard them. That sometimes, or most of the times, will quell that situation. And if you tell the coach, I'll get back to you, damn it, you better get back to him because he'll remember it. Half times, if one coach approach, you call the other coach. Excuse me. At one time we had a coaches could have come to us at the 4-minute mark, and that turned out to be quite the show, as some of them ended up with flags, and as well as officials going off. So they took that out, thank God. Anyways, stick checks. Have your back to the bench. Do not show any emotions. Do not show any signals, and let the umpire administer it. You two will discuss it and be fully aware as to what the consequences are. I believe this year, starting this year, is 2 minutes non-releasable, and it can be fixed. Do not let the coaches into the box area. It's you and the table, and you verbalize to the coach as to the table and the coach as to what it is. And make sure you give the proper signal. So in other words, review your rule book with the signals. Game over. You don't have to stand around to be patted on the back. Once you get the acknowledgement to the table, indicating the score is okay, everything's fine, leave. Okay, you don't need to shake the coach's hand. You don't need to shake the player's hand. If it's a tightly contested, stay. That way you won't have any BS. Well, I got to clean up my language. Once you get out of the game, you have no jurisdiction. Keep in mind, and keep in mind you'll be running through fans. Okay, and that watch what you say, because they're not watching what you do. They're watching what you're saying, listening to it, so that they can dial up the school or dial up DPA and say that that's referee is unprofessional because he called me a jerk or something. We all been there. So therefore, I'm passing it on to you. Don't say anything. Just get in there. Have at least 10 to 15 minutes pre-game about the game that you just did. Leave friendly. Be able to take criticism. Be able to take your mistake. And if you make a mistake during the game, don't cover it up. Don't try to make up something. Just turn and say, I blew it, wave the flag off, and let the game continue. Too many mistakes have been made by not owning up to the mistake you made. But not only that, the positive side is you're taking the wind out of the sail of the coach who wants to tear your head off. So just own up to any mistake you made, whether it's a technical or a personal. The coach will remember you for owning up to it more so than you missed it. Have your talk, and when you leave, be on good terms. Thank each other, and then go on to the next game. But most of all, have fun. Look alike out there and call the similar fouls from the beginning to the end. If coach giving you a hard time in the first quarter, you don't deal with it, why should you do anything in the fourth quarter? If you deal with it in the first quarter, second, third, and fourth, I think will be a lot smoother. The personal fouls, technical fouls are, as Tom Cook would say, they are a tool. Don't be afraid to use them. Gentlemen, have a good season. But most important out of this is communicate on the field and off the field. Any questions?
Yeah,
Come on.
I just want to add, George, if you do wind up having to eject the player, make sure you fill a report out as quickly as possible.
Yes,
While it's fresh in your head, get it to me, especially if it's an ejection that's going to extend out past that game that they're in. So
thank you. And also, if there is an ejection, gentlemen, you want them out of the site. However, coordinate that with the coach or the assistant coach if you can. Do not let that player go to the bus by himself.
Players can't leave.
excuse
Players
me?
have to stay on the bench.
Oh,
Ejected
okay.
player has to stay in the vicinity. An ejected coach has to leave the vicinity.
Okay, when you say leave the vicinity, how far is what is the vicinity? Is that to the bus?
For a visiting coach, it would be to the bus. For a home
Okay.
coach, it would be leave the place.
The facility.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
So
Yeah.
I want to be perfectly clear. This is what it says. The ejected coach shall be removed from the premises. The ejected player, substitute, or non-playing team member shall be removed from the premises if there is authorized school personnel present to supervise the student. If no authorized school personnel is available, the student shall be confined to the bench area. So if it's a home game and there's usually a site coordinator who is considered authorized personnel, they will leave the area.
Okay, just
Right.
like in basketball.
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right.
That's on page 90 of your rule book.
Anybody have any questions with that?
No,
I hope you never have to get to that point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and, on the away team, there's probably not someone who can supervise that away player. So if it's an ejection on an away player, he will probably have to stay on the bench. A home player, they will probably leave.
Okay.
Well, just to clear, whoa. Just to clear that up. I haven't seen a team yet with only one coach. So if they have an assistant coach, whether it's home or away, that coach or some school administrator takes that kid to the bus.
Yep.
Right. Or the school bus driver.
Whoever the school appointed person is, it could be an assistant coach, the face-off coach, or the bus driver, whatever. But only if there's one coach, and that's all they have there, would the kids stay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Eric.
George, I have a question for you.
Yes.
When I was coaching, I remember in one playoff game, we had to eject a fan. Now, how much can you enforce ejecting a fan if they just move back a little bit from the field?
My advice, suggestion is that you get a hold of the game administrator and have that person removed. Do not take too much time and effort in trying to remove a fan. You're walking into a hornet's nest. So find out who the game administrator is before you get there. Every game, like Eric said, has an administrator or a person in charge. The game does not continue until that person leaves. So you basically put it on the game administrator, because you don't want to be out there being being viewed as the bad guy, and you don't have to be in front of his face pointing out or anything. Just do it quietly, and just don't bring the camera or the spotlight onto yourself while you're doing this. Does that make sense?
Good. Yep.
Anybody else? Okay, well, most of all, gentlemen, as I said, it's to have fun. We're going to run into road bumps, and that's life, period. How you get out of it is what you learn throughout the games or watching your veteran officials. And I hear that. And I believe that younger officials officials with a few years in their under their belt, you don't ask enough questions. I think you need to ask more to your veteran officials to help your game out. All right, thank you.
Hey, nice job, George. And as we segue into this part of the personal fouls, I will say that an important part was mentioned, keeping track of those unsportsmanlike conducts. If you're escalating a foul to unsportsmanlike conduct, it's a good idea to have your scorecard out, writing down that player and number, because that's going to help you. If you get an unsportsmanlike unsportsmanlike in the first quarter, and then you get a second one in the fourth quarter in the same player, that's one of those ejections that would be reported, but not necessarily require. It's not not an ejection that's going to follow him per se. So there's just differences there. Just keep track of that stuff. But let's get right into personal fouls. I think Jeff's got the slides ready.
Mike, just one thing. Hold on. If he's ejected, that's going to follow him. He's not going to play for 2 games.
Yeah, you're right. I know. Two unsportsmanlikes is an ejection versus
He's
the
gone.
fighting. Yeah, I know.
And when you get in your car, you call Craig Benson, then you write it up in your report. But he's going to miss 2 games.
Keep that in mind.
Thanks for the correction, Eric. And now we have a moment of silence.
Well, as Jeff pulls up the slides, I'll finish that thought a little bit. So 2 unsportsmanlike conducts during a game, the player is ejected, and that will extend just like fighting or anything else. But still, you'd need to report that to Craig, whether it was a fight, whether it was 2 unsportsmanlikes. So keep that in mind. If you're giving a guy an unsportsmanlike for dropping an F-bomb, be aware that, just an F-bomb later on in the game may really be costly.
Greg, on that subject, are we reporting if 18 gets 1 unsportsmanlike, are we reporting that?
No.
Because in soccer, the VPA wanted to know if one team was getting a bunch of yellow cards, which would be an
Was that the
unsportsmanlike.
VPA or the league? Right?
The
There's an
VPA.
NBAC. Okay. I haven't heard that. I haven't heard anything about that. I read the guideline, everything. So I haven't seen anything that said any unsportsmanlike you have to send something. I'll ask the question and dig deeper, but right now, as far as I know, I work through the commissioners of the league, not through the VPA. So I'll find out. That's hard to track. That's going to be hard for you. Yeah.
But I know that in soccer that, if a team was getting up there where they had like 8 yellow cards or 5 or 6 yellow cards that Bob Johnson was putting a call into them, to their coach and their AD.
They only care about ejections.
Okay. So last time we went over technical fouls, we'll go over some personal fouls. There are a multitude of personal fouls. Jeff? Personal fouls are those of a serious nature: illegal body check, slashing, cross check, unnecessary roughness, tripping, unsportsmanlike conduct, checks involving the head or the neck, use of an illegal cross or equipment. The penalty for these shall be suspension from the game for 1 to 3 minutes, depending on the official's judgment of severity and perceived intent. The ball shall be given to the team foul. First one we'll see is cross-checking. We'll see a couple of slides, examples of cross-checking.
Buffering. Buffering.
Let me turn my video off. Player in white delivers a cross check to the player in blue. Notice the player in white has his hands in a cross check position before he delivers the blow. The gloved hand is part of the cross while he is grabbing the cross. Therefore, this is a cross check. Where's my video? Go ahead to the next slide. Watch the cross check away from the ball. "24" red passes the ball and then gets hit late with a cross check. At least one of the officials should be watching after a pass or a shot to see and/or flag should a personal foul occur. So again, we want to stay on the passer, stay on the shooter to get that foul. During the scramble for a loose ball, the defender delivers a cross check to the head. Watch as the defender in white approaches with his hand in a cross check position, then delivers a cross check. This should result in a multiple minute foul or possible expulsion.
I'm just curious, would this be considered targeting?
If you feel like he lined him up from multiple steps away, then you could consider it targeting. You could perceive it as targeting.
Okay.
The defender makes contact to the back of the head or neck area. The defender maintains contact to the back of the head or neck, then thrusts off for a single cross check.
Ooh.
Hey, did Rob Wyman send you these old videos with the White Sox?
Player number 2 in red comes in and cross checks his opponent in the back. From a different angle, white scoops the ball, and then number 2 in red turns around and delivers a cross check to the back of the head, knocking the white player to the ground. So most of these are all simple cross checks. Our next personal foul is a slash. Defender throws several stick checks at the opponent. Slashing is defined as striking the opponent at any part of the body with his cross. The defender has committed 2 slashing fouls on this play. Slashing is also defined as swinging a cross at an opponent's body or cross with deliberate viciousness or reckless abandon. The defender is making no play at the ball. The defender is throwing stick checks at the upper arm of the opponent with possession. These are slashing fouls. A defender who is trailing the play throws a stick check. The defender who is beaten badly has no access to the ball carrier's cross. The stick check lands on the arm of the ball carrier. The stick check lands squarely on the arm. This is a slashing foul. So this is when you're going to see a lot when they're crossing half field, or they get beat like this guy did, and they're just chopping at him, and they just slash him in the hip as they cross the field, or they slash him in the arm like this one.
Hey, Shannon, can I just mention, any of you newer officials and you wind up doing a youth game, you see a kid go up with a one-hand stick check, automatic slash.
Whether he hits the stick or the body.
Correct. In the youth game, that's what it is.
Defender throws a stick check from behind. The ball carrier cradles one-handed. Contact is made only to the body of the ball carrier. The defender sees the bottom of the ball carrier stick as an easy target. Throws a stick check at the bottom of the stick, only landing on the body. This is a slashing foul. How many fouls do you see in this next slide? Not this one. While dodging a defender, the ball carrier uses his free hand to ward off a defender. The first stick check lands on the hip. And over the top, stick check lands on the head. The ball carrier falls to the ground but maintains position. Two more very heavy stick checks are thrown. Blue finally gets the ball and the whistle is blown.
So is
I
that
think-
4?
I think that one guy was chopping wood.
Yes. Jeff, go ahead, run this one again. Not to get technical and reverse the technical fouls, but if warding had been called, the play would have ended immediately. The official allowed play to continue. The player rolls away from a stick check that lands on his hip. The upswing misses. The downswing makes significant contact with the head. The player falls to the ground, still. The next heavy stick check, the ball is loose. One final check is to the player on the ground, and blue team scoops up the ball.
I call it like 8 flashes, so it'd be 8 flags for flashes.
Yeah, that's a lot.
There's a lot. But if we pass on that ward, then it results in these multiple fouls. If we get that first foul, that first technical foul, and just turn the ball over, then none of these 5 or 6 slashes occur.
I have a question here. So if the player's on the ground and the blue player is slashing him, would that be defensive player? Would that be considered defensive player and be upgraded to unnecessary roughness?
I don't think so. I think if you try to like knock him as he's getting up onto a knee, if you body check him, that's an illegal body check. But if he's got a knee, if he still has possession of the ball, you can make a legitimate stick check.
Now, what's the signal that the official making on the right corner, upper right corner?
There was a mosquito on his head.
He threw a flag.
He threw his flag.
That was
Okay,
his,
thank you.
yeah, it looks like his follow through on his flag throw.
Oh yeah, it almost looked like he was calling failure to advance. I guess you can't advance if you're getting pulverized.
That's what I thought he was doing.
Yeah, I was throwing a flag.
Okay, I saw the flag.
Yeah.
1 second, Jeff.
Yeah, I know. I
Hold on
have
here.
too many monitors.
Hold on. We got. Oh, we have a question, actually. Sorry. Hold on. No, that's the next one. Striking an opponent on the neck or head by a cross of an opponent is called slashing, except when committed by the player in the act of passing, shooting, attempting to scoop the ball, or all of the above.
we stuck on here, Jeff?
No, so if we're passing, then it's not. If we're passing and we hit somebody in the head, it's not a slash. If we're shooting and we hit somebody in the head, it's not a slash. If we're attempting to scoop the ball and we hit somebody in the head, it's not a slash. Jeff, go ahead with that. What do we? Illegal body check is our next one.
Hey, Shannon, I got one thing to just add on slashing.
Yes, sir.
For the newer folks, you'll often run across the term brush or that's a brush, which would entail, nothing, no flag. So what's the difference between a brush and a slash, particularly up around the head area? One thing that I've always thought in the back of my mind, if the kid was not wearing a helmet, would it hurt? If it would, I'm throwing the flag for a slash. Now, that's not in the rule book. That's not on any clinic you'll ever see or hear about, but that's kind of what I've used over the years. Ouch. Yeah, that would have hurt if he hadn't had that helmet on. So here comes the flag. That's on the head, what I'm talking about.
I asked a question about multiple slashes, like we were saying earlier. Player's got the ball, flag is down, slashes, then he keeps playing, and then another slash, and then he keeps playing in a third slash. Is
Second
that?
slash.
Can you? Yeah. So is it multiple slashes? I mean, when does it turn to unnecessary roughness?
Well,
After we throw our second flag, we're going to blow the whistle.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
as soon as you throw the second flag, you're blowing a whistle, and you could have 2 1-minute slashes. So he serves 2 minutes.
So the second one just stops it. Okay. Even if the player has the advantage.
Yeah, second flag always stops.
Okay.
Not always. I mean, if he's heading towards goal, you would let
Right,
that
well, yeah.
continue, but most of the time you will kill it.
If scoring is imminent, right, you want to let it go. In high school, they do have a rule. The second flag down on the defense is stoppage of play to administer those fouls. But I think a good question there is if you've got the player who just got a slash by hitting the attackman and he's now angry, or you think he dials it up more and then slashes him a second time and he's raised that level of violence, that second one can be a 2 or 3 minute. So now you've got 2 flags on the play, but multiple minutes could ensue. And that's could be the answer versus unnecessary roughness versus a more violent slash, if that answers your question.
I think it does. Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
Oh, there was one more slide for slashing.
Oh, this is a good one. After receiving a stick check to the arm, the ball carrier retaliates.
Oh,
The first stick check is legal and creates a loose ball. The second stick check lands on the shoulder, not legal. The retaliation is flagrant misconduct. The glove hand on the cross is considered part of the cross. The defender first makes a legal stick check. The second check on the shoulder is not legal. The retaliation is gross misconduct and tantamount to fighting. The player in red was ejected with a 3-minute non-releasable penalty. The player in the dark jersey served a 1-minute foul for slashing.
That guy was taunting too.
Oh, with the stand over, yeah.
Okay, who gets the ball?
Will both players be serving the back to simultaneous foul?
blue.
3 minute is not getting the ball.
That's true.
So Eric, these are not simultaneous, right? So only one of these teams is going to be locked in, correct?
No, this is simultaneous. It's a perfect
Yeah.
example of simultaneous. Perfect example.
That's what I was thinking.
It's like question 43 actually on the test.
So,
Or I screwed up on simultaneous fouls.
Dark is in for 1 minute locked in.
Eric's question, who gets the ball?
Arc.
The dark team.
Putin.
That's the hang up that was on the question though. I'm just sharing that.
Oh, was it?
Was to say, it was like question 42 or 43 or something like that. Yeah.
Why is blue locked in if it's just a slash?
Simultaneous.
Simultaneous.
Thank you.
So do we think about, this is John, do we think about throwing the white kid out?
He's ejected in this, yeah.
Ejected.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that was, wow, kidney punch.
Yeah.
All right, next one is the legal body shock. Now I switched over to a different video, which I forgot to put in the slide apparently. So bear with me.
Did we answer what the simultaneous fouls? Who got the ball there? I know it was dark team, but that was just based on the time of the penalties, or if there were two simultaneous, just 1 minute slashing. What's the
So you
answer?
had a simultaneous fouls. You had the black kid going for a minute, and you had the white kid going for 3 minutes, let's say. So black has less penalty time. So black will get the ball. It's a live ball, simultaneous fouls. So black would get the ball at the spot outside the box, heading upfield.
But what if the white kid was just, what if it was just a 1 minute penalty and it wasn't a flagrant? There was just two
Okay.
personal
white's in for
fouls is
one.
what I'm saying.
White's in for one, black's in for one. The first flag was on black, white had possession, so white gets the ball. White gets the ball back.
Right, that's what I was thinking. Okay.
Yeah, because the question on the test doesn't have that violent flagrant
Right.
foul. It only has a conduct foul, or like a swearing foul, or going out of bounds, playing the ball out of bounds foul. And like you said, in that situation, that's where white would get the ball back. It wasn't a violent foul, correct?
Ba, 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 ba. You're saying black slashed him, okay,
Yep.
right? And then white does something like a conduct foul.
Yeah, well, playing the ball out of bounds, I think, or swears or something like that was the
That's a dead ball thought, so it's, yeah.
so it was a dead ball foul, which meant the ball would also impact the white, correct?
Okay, so the play ends and then white does something stupid. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, yeah, but they would have
Okay.
gotten possession.
Then, okay, that would be a dead ball foul and the possession would revert to black.
It would, okay. And the wording of that question is very tricky, so be careful when you guys take the test if you haven't taken
Yeah.
it yet.
It's all based on the sequence of the foul. So it's based on whether a live play or a double foul. So if it's a double foul after the fact of a live play, obviously two separate situations.
And if it's a dead ball personal foul by Mr. White, where would the restart be?
Midfield, free clear.
Midfield, yeah. Go to the head of the class, Jeff.
All
Can I
right,
ask another question, guys?
Absolutely.
When you come together with your partner, where is the ideal location? Is it always in the center? Is it just finding that space that is no players are at? Is there a designated spot?
There's no designated spot as long as at least one official in a two-man game has a view of the field and the players while
Okay.
you're having this conversation, which these conversations should not happen often.
Mhm.
Only if you have multiple flags or some sort of confusing situation. But as long as one official has a view of the field and the players, you could have it in the parking lot for all I care, you know.
So maybe the one who calls the play has his backs to the players so they can't hear or maybe see what's going on, where the guy who didn't make the call now has his eyes on the players. I'm just thinking who would have that, because you don't want to have that conversation near kids or a
No,
coach.
I would separate myself and I'd put my hand up over my mouth and as if I'm mumbling.
Okay.
don't come flying across the field. I've got 2 minutes. I've got 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Well, you may confer with your partner and come up with 1 minute. Now the coach and everybody's heard you yell 2 minutes. So before you say anything, get with your partner, put your hand over your mouth and make sure it's a private conversation while somebody's watching the inmates, as George would say.
Next up is illegal body check. Unmute it, Jeff.
Oh,
So red pair throws a pass over his back. The ball's away. Here comes a white player with a late hit.
In the head.
Illegal body check.
How about in the head?
Could have been in the head.
I see a lot of people call loose push on that, especially in college.
well, hey, this is high school.
I know.
All right, don't be interjecting things like that. Please.
Depends what the score is, too.
Just think of it this way. Think of it this way. If you consider that a push, what would a 3-minute illegal body check look like? Ambulance on the field? That's the kind of the thinking that I'm doing. If that's a 1 minute or a 30 or just a loose ball push, my goodness, what would a 3-minute be then? So that's some of the thinking you have to go through.
Good points all around. I mean, don't let the player's condition or what happened. Did he get hurt? He doesn't look hurt. That kind of stuff you may hear from coaches. That doesn't matter. This is this isn't a push. You can see the follow through. He practically launches himself into him. So.
And doesn't have the ball either. The ball gone.
But I think, Craig Benson made an interesting point, though. We see pushes, okay, in the back, it's a push. We're used to that. A player who continues to push, that could be unnecessary roughness as well, or illegal body check. That's when you start to ramp this up. I think one of the best examples of an illegal body check is in the back, a check that's in the back versus, unnecessary roughness.
But what if that defender leaves his feet and projects himself forward? Does that change it?
Maybe, but as long as you're getting something there.
The only thing that would change would be the amount of penalty time he's going to serve. What you call it may be a little bit irrelevant at that point, but he could go 1 minute or 2 minutes. And if it's in the head, you could go 2 minute non-releasable.
Okay,
There's one
so
illegal body check on this video.
get the whole video to see.
Long pole has the ball here. He's coming into the goal. Guy's lining him up from 10, 15 yards away. He might have had an eye on his shoulder to start. Guy still turned, and then he launched himself into his back. That's not a push with possession. That's an illegal body check.
Got the player more than 5 yards away.
Just because he gets him in the back, just because he follows through and.
To run at him.
Yeah, the ref was getting his hand on his flag, when he was 3 yards away.
So this kid ends up in the crease. What do we do now?
Stop the play.
Yep. Sorry, the flag down does not continue. He's in the crease, coach. I had to kill the play. But you are man up, coach. Okay, 1 minute.
So can you play that again, please? No, the other one that was,
Here it comes.
yeah. So if you look on page 58, Article 4, the player who's about to be body checked turns his back, jumps, or moves in such a manner to make what started out to be legal appear illegal. No foul is committed by the player applying the body check. Right? I'm not saying that's the case, but you have to be careful, right, when you're going through that rule.
Well, I think with the veracity.
Oh,
of
no,
the-
I get that. Right.
No,
I'm
I
not
mean,
saying this
even
isn't-
if he turned and he got it in the, in the shoulder or side, that with him running the distance that he ran and the veracity of the check.
Nope, I totally understand, but I'm just bringing the point up. Just if a player with the ball turns when he's about to be hit, right? And then he winds up, what would have been legal becomes illegal, it's still a legal body check.
Right. If he turned into it.
That is the referee's discretion.
Discretion.
how
Right. In
that-
this case, the guy was lining him up from 10 yards out, right? So, yeah.
Again, I think another way to look at this is like you said, Craig, the player knows if his opponent maybe have the ability to turn out of the, and maybe this guy is aware of that and he's ducking his left shoulder down to prevent him from gaining access to his side. But again, the defender here practically launches himself into it.
It's like
and
a
lands-
charge, right? It's like charging.
Yeah, he doesn't try to restrain himself.
Right.
So I have a question, Mike, for the group here, really. This guy lines him up for 12, 15 yards out. How many minutes are you giving this guy?
Yeah, the lining up thing just makes it easier to call. I don't think that escalates it. I would still just kind of go with the 1 minute here. This doesn't look like it's, to me, maybe there's a cross check, it's blurry, but just the way this plays out, it's an easy call, but I'm not looking to escalate this automatically. Anyone else?
It's just because because the player is running toward him, you consider that lining him up?
I think the lining up thing is a situation where the player is going to get hit, doesn't see it coming. I think that's more of the lining up definition in my mind.
So then,
You know,
so
a
then,
guy-
so then it's targeting.
Yeah, lining up, targeting, right.
Because there's nothing that says anything about lining up.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, there's not like charging in hockey where if you take
Yeah.
too many steps or something like that.
Right.
Next up, we have like 3 or 4 minutes, maybe 3 minutes on unnecessary roughness slides. Intentional avoidable contact is made against a player setting an illegal offensive screen. Intentional contact made against a screening player is one form of unnecessary roughness. This is a good call for unnecessary roughness. Once a player has set a legal screen, the defender, assuming he has seen the screener, is obligated to avoid contact in the screener. In this case, the player looks, sees the screen, and makes intentional heavy contact. This is a foul for unnecessary roughness. A player receiving a pass is knocked to the ground from behind. After the player shoots, the player delivers a late hit, which is another form of unnecessary roughness. Players who are shooting are by definition in a vulnerable position. Officials need to be diligent to make sure that anybody contacting the shooter does not do so late and in a way that is excessively violent. In this case, the player ran up to the shooter and intentionally takes him to the ground. This is a foul for unnecessary roughness. Go ahead, Jeff. After the shot, defender continues to apply pressure and drive the opponent into the ground. This type of contact is both violent and avoidable. This is a clear example of unnecessary roughness.
Now I have a question for everybody, for the new guys, especially Shannon, can you just go out explain the difference between unnecessary roughness and illegal body check? I know some people may get confused on those two.
Excessively violent is what it says in the slides and everything. And the book doesn't have a great one, but I think it's just the excessiveness of the hits. And sometimes they're like that last one, you know, it's not an illegal body check because he just hits him. He hits him on time, but then he continues to hit him and drives him through to the ground with excessive violence or unnecessary. Jeff, rewind this back and hit the unmute button on it.
Oh,
No, we can't hear it with everything. So everybody's hollering from the benches. There was a penalty, so everybody's hollering that it's 6-on-6 now. All even. So after the penalty is released, the substitute comes charging on the field and trucks the player in white. Even though 17 in white sees the contact coming, the player in white is unable to avoid being run over. The illegal body check from behind is excessively violent and therefore ruled unnecessary roughness.
I wouldn't get too hung up on the exact language between illegal body check and unnecessary roughness, because sometimes the lines are a little blurred on that.
Jeff, rewind this from the beginning, please. The attacker gets tangled up with the goalie who goes to the ground. The officials judge that the goalkeeper knew what he was doing and intentionally slashed his opponent in the helmet. The head of the goalkeeper can be seen looking at the opponent as he's going to the ground. The officials judge that this is an act of intentionally striking the head of an opponent. Unnecessary roughness. Many possible outcomes in this one. Jeff, you want to play it again? White could receive a holding foul, or white could receive unnecessary roughness. Blue could receive unnecessary roughness or slashing or a check to the head or the neck. The officials will need to discuss before penalizing. Roll slide. Just one sec. I have a question in here somewhere. Right there.
This is another simultaneous fouls. Yeah.
Right. Whether it's holding or you judge that he swung the goalie to the ground. Oh, come on, right there. One sec. 47.
Who do you think did more damage here? The goalie or the defender? Or the guy who pushed the goalie or whatever he did to the goal?
Keeper.
Only a more dangerous play for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if
Find it.
I'm assessing penalty minutes, I'd go more for that goalie's idiocy than for the white player. So I wouldn't have equal penalty time here. I'd have more penalty time, whatever I came up with on that goalie.
And you'd be giving White the ball.
Oh yeah, he's going to get the ball. White would get the ball with more penalty time on the goalie.
Right.
Now we have a goalie serving a penalty. Now we have a 1 minute warm up for the new goalie. And we've got other things to think about. Yeah.
We do have a question on unnecessary roughness, a test question here.
Oh, these test questions.
Love them. Which of the following is considered
see these.
unnecessary roughness?
Was there a question?
Yeah, it's right at the top. Which of
Let's
the
see
following
here.
is considered to be unnecessary roughness?
I can't see it.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
seeing.
I don't see a
Slide's
question.
not up.
Oh, nothing's showing up. That's nice. Okay, sorry. It says I'm sharing my screen. Go ahead, Jeff.
I do. No, not Rob turn.
Yeah, so I mean, as far as that was the last question. You want to just read it off, Shannon? What was your last?
Yes, I can read it. Let me pull it back up. Exit full screen. Which of the following is considered to be unnecessary roughness? A, swinging across at the opponent with deliberate viciousness or reckless abandon.
Hmm.
B, an avoidable legal body check that is deliberate and excessively violent. C, obstructing an opponent below the waist with a foot or cross. Or D, all of the above.
The,
Most likely B, as in boy, I think.
yeah, I agree.
Last one's tripping.
Right. B is an avoidable legal body check that is deliberate and excessively violent. That is unnecessary roughness.
You can take your opponent out of the play, but don't take him out of the game. That's the mantra I always like to repeat. Guys, I know we're running a little long on time here, but again, this was important, and thank you, Shannon. I know you did a lot of work to put all that together. I appreciate all the discussion, but remember, this is all just to kind of, get the wheels turning a little bit. All this stuff is available online for you to review on your own. But again, the way George kind of started our call out a little bit today with just trying to take some big picture stuff. Rob Wyman also has a little bit here for us. So I appreciate you giving him attention as well. The extra time here this morning is going to be worth it. So please, Rob.
Looks like Rob has a nice play on here, signal.
Well, good morning, gang, and thanks for the opportunity to get some airtime. And I appreciate the hard work people have put in to prepare everybody for their season. And as I was reviewing what might have been missed, I ended up consulting with Terry Harlow, and he told me a story, and all of a sudden it dawned on me that we haven't had a joke. And I think there's always an occasion for a joke when officials gather together. So it seems there was this guy driving outside of Woodstock and went into Barnard, and I know that Matt Birmingham knows where this place is. And he goes by Silver Lake, and he goes, I bet there's some good fish in there. But he doesn't have anything to go fishing with. So he pulls into the country store that's right there, goes in and goes up to the guy at the counter and says, do you have any fish bowls? And the guy goes, yeah, they're in back in the right. And he realizes that the guy's blind, but okay. So he goes back there and he gets his fish bowl and he puts it down on the counter, and the blind guy picks it up and he goes, well, sir, you've selected a titanium rod, and this is a Zebco 200 XL reel, and that will be $15. Right about then, the guy feels this lower abdominal gaseous sort of pain, and he realizes he really needs to take a fart. And he looks around and he sees there's other people in the store, and this guy being blind, he won't know that it's him that's cut the fart. But so he does his fart, and the guy goes, that'll be $25. And the guy goes, wait a minute, you just said it was only 15. What's the other $10 for? And the guy behind the counter goes, well, that's for the duck call and the stink bait. All right.
It was better than I thought.
We're going to roll through these rather quickly, Jeff. I know you guys can all read, so I'll just add a couple of things on some of the slides. But Jeff, if you'll start to roll it. All right. Having a goal. Just a rhetorical question. What's yours as a lacrosse official? Next one. We get many roles that we're choosing to be, and one of the ones we choose to be is a lacrosse official, and we want to be good at it, so we're going to work at it. Next one. Game of and with people, and then I've got 2 resources there. If you really want to get in to start working on your master's level, then you can look up verbal judo, you can look up conflict resolution, but basically it's how you relate with other people. And I make some assumptions, and these are in no means a complete list, but just some assumptions. And when you start looking at that, you go, wow, those are a lot of things that I got to be able to do. But we are in a very select group of people because we do all these things as an official. Okay, next one. Rule book. Can't get away from it. Somebody's brand new, work on 5 and 6, and then up your game and work on 4 and 7. And you need to be able to talk the language of the rule book. If you make up the words, there's a disconnect between what's in the rule book. So try to just use the language of the rule book as you describe the penalty or as you sell the call. Next one. You got to do it all the time. Not when you think it's a big game, not when you think you're being watched. That's how you get the big game, is you make all those habits. So every time you're doing it the way by the mechanics, the way by the rule book. All right, next one. Find a mentor, somebody that can help you out. Pick their brain. The last point I'm making on this slide is find opportunities to work outside Vermont so you can expand your horizons. And if you go to the next slide, Jeff. For instance, there is a tournament in Belgium where they take the winners of the club leagues in as many as 10 or more countries. They each have their own league, and the winner goes to Belgium, and it's country against country against country. Great opportunity. You can roll again. This one's for Craig. You can just read it, become his go-to guy to solve the problem. And Craig, by the way, if you assign Paul Trono and I to a game, then you're putting 146 years out there combined with over 95 years of officiating experience. So
Wow.
that may be too much, but next slide. Set the table. This isn't a case of feeling you're being anal, but if you can set everything all up when you start your game, you're not going to get surprised as much as you might. So go to the home personnel. Who's the site administrator? Who's the trainer? Talk to the table. Tell them that when the penalty guy is coming in, put him right in front of the table so they can keep track of him and communicate. But it's also for you to keep track. And anytime you look over there, you can tell whether you've got somebody in the box or not. You want to walk the field. Oh, Jeff, we're getting a little fast there. We want to walk.
My bad.
If you can back it up just a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, walk the field so that you know that the cones are right and the lines are right. And if there's any hazards out there, start that conversation with the coach. So you're building a rapport if you've never worked with in front of that coach before. And I know we're COVID challenged to have those kind of communications, but with your mask on or keeping your distance, you can still have those kind of communications. And circulate a little bit through the players. You're making yourself available for equipment checks, but you're also looking to make sure that there isn't any jewelry, that they've got end caps, and you are available if they want any stick checks, of course. You're not particularly aiming to do that, but you're just available for it. All right, next slide. Okay, coaches. And everybody keeps saying, what do the coaches want? They want consistency. And I'm going to suggest that that's a false equivalent, because what happened down there is not the same thing that happened there. So he goes, well, you called there, and why didn't you call there? They're two different things in some cases. Maybe there's a commonality, and maybe you need to consider calling both the exact same way, but they've got to be the exact same. And what your goal really is to have the coach accept your non-calls as much as your calls. He knows that you saw it. He knows that you passed on it. Maybe he's looking for it for the next time, but you're watching the same game. And in a 3-man game, it's easier to have that. I use the word calibration with a coach, where you're coming up as the trail and you stand there in front of the coach, and over your shoulder, you're going, hey, coach, number 32 needs to get more stick when he makes his checks, or clean up the substitution next time, try to get that a little bit better. And if I know the coach really well, I might tell him that, hey, your number 12 really needs a left hand, because he would have scored there if he could have done it. So, you're taking a risk to do that, and I'm not suggesting everybody puts that out there as their game plan. But think about it. Next slide. All right, a couple examples here, and some of this has come from conversations I've had with other VLOA members. And I'm not trying to negatively pick out Spalding, but for instance, they have an occasion where they'll have a cluster of students who will come into the enclosure of the field, stand on the far sideline, and kind of razz the other team's goalie. And I've heard some officials consider, well, we're going to penalize the home team. Don't get into that. Just find your site administrator, tell them there's a problem, and ask him to have all the kids moved out of the enclosure so they're over there in the stands. Don't even have to penalize them, because you're going to eliminate the problem. You can also read my second point there. I use my fingers and I'll put it against my thigh or my body so that I can remember as a play continues that I had a slash on, I don't know, number 7. I've got my fingers telling me that when the play stops, oh yeah, it's 7. And I make this earlier point of put the penalty server in front of the table. You know where he is. Table can communicate with him, and you can find him. When you've got a penalty and you're putting in another man after some time is run off, find out the time of that first penalty. So then when you announce back to the field, you're pretending like you're telling it to the goalie. Goalie, we got 12 seconds left on your team's penalty. What you're telling your partners, you're telling the entire field, and it's reminding you and your partners that you've got a guy in the penalty box, because you might start to hear a countdown. You don't want to confuse that with an end of period, and you want to be prepared for somebody coming on the field. Next slide. Pre-game. George did a great one. It was late in the season, but it was still cold as hell. Good work, George. Next slide. What I've done to build my pregame is have a little notepad in my car. After the game, write down the stuff that got screwed up, and I build that in to become my pregame, so that if I can identify that, discuss it with my partners going forward, maybe we can eliminate that from happening again.
How many notepads in a year do you go through?
Well, in a lifetime, I don't save them all, Paul. So I forget what number I'm up to. All right, next slide. But you're in for a long pregame when Eric starts off with once upon a time, and he starts with, there was the creator and then the first stick and blah, blah, blah. All right, next slide. Earlier, I heard Zach make an offer. He works at the Stone Corral, and I'm not particularly pushing the Stone Corral, but he said he'd buy you a beer if you went there. Mike and I took him up on the offer. We ended up having more, and Zach got a good tip. But my point is, we're working with a small group of people. Make some opportunity to socialize. Even if you have to drive off site and open up your cooler, take your shirt off, still have a beer if you want, or a soda, but spend some time, get to know the person, because you're going to be working with them in subsequent games.
And bring your wallet if you're going out with Rob.
Next slide.
Not true. I've done it with Rob, and he bought my beer. So
Looking for a game.
Next slide. All right. One of the major benefits of us doing this game is whatever your problems are, whatever's been on your mind, when you go out there, you get to clear your mind and you're focused on the game and you're not thinking about all these other things. And it refreshes you. It clears your mind. Then you can go back and tackle your problems later on. But it's a 90-minute window of your problems aren't with you. All right, next slide. And get out there and enjoy it, and you get paid for it. Can you identify the 3 people in here who have paid money to the VLOA in the past?
David Hay, George.
That's Rob Wyman
Yeah, there you go.
with the
All
NILOA.
right. All right, looking forward to the season. Looking forward to working with all you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Oh, that was a lot of fun. Who was the first one? David who?
Hey,
Hey,
Oh, I didn't know.
he was my mentor.
Is this at Vale?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
A
Nice
good
picture.
group of guys.
Yeah. Hey, a lot of fun. Rob, that was a great presentation. I really enjoyed it. A lot of good things just to wrap up all these training sessions even. You know, Greg Benson started assigning games. Make sure you get into Arbiter. And if anything else comes up, you know, we're going to try to have one more these if we have to go over COVID protocol or anything else at the beginning of the year. And I think just one last question as you bail out, please. Let us know if there's a time that you'd prefer before Sunday mornings. If there's something else, if Sunday morning's okay, do that as well, just so we know. But we may have to have one more meeting before we start doing games. Other than that, thanks, everybody. I really appreciate it.
Last quiz will be Monday.
One last thing from me, gentlemen, is review what constitutes a possession of the ball. That's it.
Thank
Have
you,
a good
guys.
Sunday.
Thank you.
thanks, guys.